All right. Welcome to week 4. I feel like this term is going fast. It's like week 4 already. Does anyone else feel like it's going fast? A little bit?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay, so I will take a minute. I like this little cartoon. I'm going to take a minute to acknowledge the Darug country that I'm sitting on and pay my respect to traditional owners of the land and their elders, past, present, and emerging. Tonight, case studies seem to work good with this group. So I've got another one. Actually, I tell a lie. I've got 2. So internal and external triggers. We're going to talk a little bit about Dan Siegel's window of tolerance, and we'll do some case studies at the end. I think case studies are a nice kind of way to finish off the material, but if you guys are not loving them, then let me know. Okay, triggers. Triggers is one of those buzzwords. Can we put Rachel? Well, you can put Rachel on the spot with permission.
Yeah, I don't know what you're putting me on the spot for, but I'm here for it.
The yarning thing.
Oh, the yarning circle.
Yeah, does anyone want to do it?
I'm always down for it.
I'm happy to do a yarning circle.
Was Sarah here last time for the yarning circle? I don't know. I don't think she was.
No, I wasn't in the workshop last week.
Oh, well, that'll be a nice little treat for you. I'm happy to hand over control.
Nice. All right. Well, please pause while I pull up my PowerPoint. Let's see. So as I said, like last time, I think we did it a fortnight ago. The question always go to first is how you feeling, or just a question that's always addressed. I think there's a bit of a similarity between, I guess, something you're grateful for and something you're thankful for. I think might do something that you're thankful for today, even though I guess the words are quite synonymous together. But yeah, something you're grateful for, how you're feeling, and a question we did this morning with the kids actually, which was really interesting. I mean, a lot of the kids' responses were just sleep, but a self-care. What's a self-care activity that you feel you need to make more time for, or a self-care activity that you feel like maybe you need to put a bit more work into. So I suppose I'll give my example as Tony's left. She's had enough of the ice. No, I'm kidding. So I'm feeling quite optimistic. Today I felt a bit like off this morning, but I think it was more so like had a weird dream. So I woke up feeling quite tense. But I got over that pretty quickly. So I'm feeling quite optimistic, had a really good day with students. I'm thankful. I was thinking today, I'm very thankful for the friends that I have. I'm coming up to a birthday, so thinking of like the people coming to that event over the weekend and how they've come into my life across different, I guess, streams of experiences. So very grateful and thankful for the friends that I have and the support they've continually given through ups and downs. And a self-care activity that I need to work on more, I guess, change my attitude toward a bit, is exercise. I love going for walks. I do enjoy going for runs and swimming, but I think I've gotten to a point of doing it so often that if I go a day without doing it, it almost impacts my mental health where I'm down on myself for it. So I think what I need to work on is kind of taking a step back and just and I think that comes with, I guess, body image and self-esteem. So I think just taking a step back, enjoying exercise, doing it regularly, but also being kind to myself on the days where I choose to engage in other self-care activities instead. Yeah, so I might throw it to you, Carly.
Oh, thank you for being so vulnerable.
Okay.
What am I feeling today? I'm really tired today. I did not sleep well.
Unfortunately, we don't allow tired in the circle. So I'll
No.
have that. We don't allow that with the kids.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to put my foot down here.
All right. What else am I? What else am I? What else am I? I don't know. I'm just kind of plodding today. Like, when you feel a little bit like the, and then you just kind of have to go, all right, well, you still got to keep on keeping on. So suck it
Yeah.
up, princess. Just keep going. So I'm a little bit kind of, I don't know. I'm plodding today. It's plodding an
That's it.
emotion. I'm turning it into one.
I'll allow it. Yeah.
Okay, green light on that. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for today? Today I am grateful for today I'm grateful for family. Today I'm grateful for family. And what was the last bit? Something
I
self-care.
guess self-care, the activity that you feel like you don't do enough, or something you feel you need to work on.
I was listening to a podcast this morning, a really good one, and I haven't listened to a podcast in a couple of weeks because I've not been walking. I need to, but I've had a million things going every day. And so I kind of just, once I got into it, I was like, oh, I miss my podcasts. Like, I'm an avid reader. I will read a book every 3-4 days when I have time to read one. But yeah, I haven't listened to a podcast for ages. It was about the mushroom cook, the lady who cooked the mushrooms that murdered. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a bit of a true crime nut. So I was getting into that, and then I had to stop driving, and I was tempted to do a few laps around the block. But it's going to motivate me to get off my bum and go for a walk tomorrow so I can finish it.
Nice.
That's what I need to do. Sarah, I'm going to send it your way.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
We
I think we've done it 2 weeks ago as well.
did.
Yes.
Last
Yeah.
week. Yeah, but different questions. So today I'm feeling okay. I had energy to study, which is good. Um, what else? I'm grateful that my twin, gave birth, and she has,
Oh,
yeah, she has a daughter now. Her name is Celia.
Oh,
I'm happy for her. Um,
that's
so,
lovely.
that's
yeah,
lovely. That's really lovely.
yeah. And self-care, I'd like to do meditation, and I don't know from where to start. I think would be really good, but yeah, that's what I think I need to do. But all the time, I ask myself, I don't know from where to start, so I can get used to it. If anyone
Nice.
has any idea.
I
I,
think
I
there
do,
are lots of good guided ones now, right? Like, it's not like it used to be where you used to have to just lay there and kind of try and redirect yourself every time your mind wandered. There's some good guided podcasts and stuff that teach you how to do that now.
I
Yeah,
think,
I
There's one
know,
called
but
yeah.
Insight Timer.
I tried it, but it didn't work for me. Like, I don't know. I didn't feel anything changed after that.
I feel like the first couple of times, I guess, with meditation, I mean, the very few experiences I had with like trying to do like grounding techniques or breathing were in instances where I had to like be like emotionally regulated. And so trying to do that actually heightened it because it wasn't something I was familiar with. So I think probably if I were to start doing meditation or like implement like breathing exercise strategies, it's probably something I'd have to work on and practice when I'm kind of already in a calm state. So
Yeah,
practicing it in moments when you don't actually need it, but just
yeah.
and then I guess yeah.
I think that was the problem because all the time when I try to do it, when I'm not in a like not in a calm like situation, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you find that doesn't help. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better, and also it's better to practice, keep practicing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to do.
This conversation is so good because we're talking a little bit later about hyperarousal and hypoarousal. It's such a nice segue. Kristen, we're doing this lovely little activity that Rachel is guiding us through at the moment. So Tony's next, but you can just wing it if you like.
Yeah. Well,
When it gets to your turn.
the three questions, I'll just give I won't yap because you all know by now that I certainly can. At school, we do circles every morning with students. So it's always saying how you're feeling, generally something you're grateful for, and then just a question that's kind of thought up on the spot. So the third question for this evening is what's a self-care activity that you enjoy but also feel like you need to work on? So I guess, yeah, just focusing on improving self-care, making sure that we're continuing to look after ourselves. Go for it, Tony. I'll put you on the spot now.
Thanks. Pretty flat today. Don't know if it's to do with the full moon, with like lack of sleep.
Mercury is in Gatorade kind of thing.
It's been a bit like that. It was a bit down this morning, but then I didn't realise that Melbourne had a 20-degree day. So I actually managed to go out in the sun, and that kind of uplifted me a bit. I am grateful for this new hot water bottle.
Nice.
It now it plugs into the wall.
Oh.
And it heats up for like 10 minutes and then it stays warm for about 6. So it's not as like risky as hot water bottle and getting like a burn.
Yeah. And like the oat ones that you put in the microwave. I didn't know you could get ones that you'd be able to charge. That's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't know until I had like a minor surgery. And then the nurse was like, you should get this. And I'm like, okay. Grateful / thankful for being able to afford private health insurance and how quickly I was able to get in to this hospital procedure. And the fact they covered everything, so there was no like out-of-pocket costs. I know you pay, but yeah. The self-care one, was it?
Yeah. Just some self-care activity that you feel like you need to work on for yourself.
I really want to work on my puzzle. But
like jigsaw puzzle?
Yeah, and doing attempting to do this.
Oh wow.
But it's doing my head in. Just kind of set time for me. And I've been focusing with my clients this week last week about observing sounds in nature and like having that time off my phone and being like the wildlife and the leaves and like things like that and just being kind of mindful with that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I'm hoping recovery is going well from the surgery.
Thank you.
It's all right. Go for it, Kristen.
Totally putting her on the spot.
Sorry. Yeah. I've really taken over tonight.
I'm feeling just happy to be here to do the class. And I'm really busy this week, but I still like being busy, so I'm enjoying that, but I'm a little bit tired. And what else do I have to say? What's
something
the next
you're grateful for?
I'm really grateful that I can study online because I don't really think I'd be able to get to a class. So that's really good. And what was the other thing?
Just a self-care activity or something you feel like you need to work on for you in terms of taking care of yourself.
I'm actually all over self-care. I'm just, it's all happening. I meditate, I journal, I exercise. So I feel like really happy with self-care in my life. I'm just want to keep doing that. I like maybe just being more flexible with my self-care and just like teaming it up with other things like at the same time, like socializing while doing self-care or something like that, like blending the self-care into other things. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thank you.
Nice.
All right. I'll toss the leadership back to you, Carly.
Thanks, mate.
I'll send you an
lovely.
invoice.
Do you take payment in strawberry Freddos? It's my currency these days.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Oh, that was really nice. Thank you, everyone. And now we're going to talk about triggers. I'm going to throw it out to you guys. It seems like a clunky segue, but I wanted to see if you guys could come up with some type of loose definition. If you tried to define it, if someone said to you, what's a trigger? What kind of things would you think about? How would you word it? What would you describe it as?
Something or a feeling or internal or external thing that causes an unpleasant state of mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good one.
I guess my kind of thought was like a trigger would be I guess, yeah, going off what Tony said, it could be an internal or external like stimuli that elicits I guess an intense or I don't want to add overwhelming because that can be a bit more emotional, but yeah, like that elicits an intense emotional reaction. And I think that can be, I guess there can be both positive and negative triggers, but in this instance, yeah, generally more negative.
Yep. Yeah, good. It's a bit tricky, right? To try and capture a nice little sentence that defines it.
It's hard to define it without using the word trigger.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's one of those words. Look, the official definition, as far as I could see, is that they are external or internal stimuli, which you guys captured, that remind someone of a traumatic event, which I thought kind of captured it quite nicely. So could be anything: sight, sound, smells, tastes, lots of sensory words there. And that I guess the key is that trauma survivors experience triggers differently based on their unique experiences. So obviously people can live through the same event, but be triggered by different aspects of that event, be not triggered at all by that event, or it can vary in frequency or intensity. So if we look back to our neurobiology from last semester, if anyone remembers it, remembering that when a trauma trigger activates the amygdala, which is a little almond-shaped part of your brain that regulates your emotions, it sets off the fight or flight response. So it does that by signaling to the hypothalamus and your pituitary gland, and all of the stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol fly through your body and release all of those physical or manifest in those physical symptoms that we know or recognize. So sweating and heart rates and rapid breathing and things. So traumatic experiences, if we're thinking about learning, traumatic experiences frequently result in what they call one trial learning. So a single event or a single experience can alter the brain structure or functioning, which means new learning is very quickly solidified. So other types of learning, so for example, when you're trying to ride a bike, when you're trying to learn a language, usually require lots of repetition, but trauma learning happens or can happen after just one experience because that primitive part of the brain is so hardwired for survival. And obviously, while it's very helpful for survival when you're, as we use the analogy last semester, if you're fighting off a tiger in the jungle, very helpful, but not so helpful if you're sitting on a train in peak hour having a panic attack. And that can exacerbate things and compromise your mental health and long-term well-being. It can also teach the brain that it's not safe to relax. So the world is a dangerous place, people are dangerous, or constant vigilance is needed to protect you. So, for example, if you experienced a home invasion incident, your brain might learn that you are not safe in your own home, or that when you're alone, you're unsafe, or that you constantly need to be on guard for intruders. The ability to learn these lessons is really quick. It's a really good demonstration of how powerful your brain can be. So during something that's traumatic, that threat detection center of your brain, so the amygdala activates and that cascade of emotions kind of happens. And the survival mode is activated. So you fight, you flight, you fawn, you freeze. And all of those things are wonderful and credited with your survival, but sometimes they're not actually helpful. But your brain learns that by doing that, you survived the trauma. So essentially, it's kept you alive by becoming stressed and entering that survival mode, which is why, given the brain's primary goal is to keep you alive and not mentally healthy, just alive, it makes sense that the brain learns really quickly how to do that best when your life is threatened. But moving forward after a traumatic event, it's learned that threats to your safety are out there and they exist. And the best way to keep you alive in the face of those threats is to be hyper attuned to your surroundings. So people can find it hard to exit that survival mode and downregulate the amygdala and relax. So these are the 3 types of triggers that we've got. The main types. Internal triggers, so things that you feel or experience inside your body. External triggers are things you might encounter throughout your day. And relational triggers, so interpersonal relationships that remind someone of a traumatic relationship or event. If we're looking at internal triggers, so things or experiences that happen inside of us that cause us to behave in certain ways. So good examples of these are thoughts and feelings, particularly some of these ones that are highlighted. Things where people feel unvalidated, powerless, unsafe, disconnected to others. Shame is a very powerful emotion, very powerful trigger. Being manipulated, being ignored. Would flashbacks, I'd say, would be a symptom or a response to the trigger. So where you have your trigger, so this is the stimuli. The flashback is the reaction to that or the response to that, if that makes sense. Sarah?
So the flashbacks is the same term as the re-traumatization. Is it
can
similar
be
or something different?
Yeah, it's similar. It's your brain replaying what's happened, basically, and often on a loop. So it can happen when the brain is trying to make sense of the narrative or fill holes in a narrative. It can be a really powerful jolt and just a split second of something, but often as a result of a trigger. So, for example, if something traumatic has happened to you on a train, and you hear a noise in the background that sounds like train tracks, the train tracks are the trigger, or the sound is the trigger, and the flashback is the response to that trigger. So that's your body's hyper arousal, trying to make sense of that.
So flashbacks mean I feel the same, like relive the trauma experience again. So
Yeah.
Which mean re-traumatization. So it's the same meaning but different term, right?
Yeah. So an internal trigger could be a memory. So it could be And memories, remember, can be sensory or narrative based. So it could be a story that you're remembering. It might be an event. It might be a smell. It might be a feeling that you're remembering that is linked to the trigger. So it might be, somebody has deeply hurt and upset you or betrayed you. And the next time you feel a little bit betrayed about something, that previous experience comes back because it's the feeling. Physical sensations are quite big internal triggers. So things like muscle tension or a racing heartbeat. I worked for a long time with a young person who had fainted out in public. And when she came to, she had this ringing in her ears. And so many years later, I can't remember what happened now. I think she was exposed to a very loud noise. Something happened in a shopping centre, maybe a smoke alarm, some type of really loud alarm went off, and it resulted in ringing in her ears, and it set off this cascade of triggers for her, remembering that feeling, and it resulted in panic attacks and all sorts of things, because then she sort of started getting really hypervigilant to her hearing and noises. So physical sensations are very strong. Some people, when they've survived something really traumatic, struggle with things like cardio exercise, because that racing heart feeling can replicate or feel like a panic attack or anxiety. So people that have issues or panic attacks very regularly sometimes can struggle with things that bring and elevate their heart rate up, or make them sweat, or have those same physical responses, because it makes them kind of replicate and feel like they're having a panic attack when they're not. This stuff can also be like anniversary dates or big occasions, weddings, funerals, big triggers, and big feelings. So being ignored is a really popular one, or feeling or being hypervigilant to people ignoring, because it taps into those feelings of kind of exclusion and abandonment and feeling uncared for. So there are some bigger emotions, I think, that are very powerful triggers for people. If we look at external triggers, then these things can be people. So it can be family members. It could be professionals that were involved. It might be that you've had a very traumatic experience in a hospital, and next time you see somebody in scrubs or a nurse outfit or something, that's very triggering and traumatic. It can be roles like police or emergency personnel. It could be a name. It could be an interaction. I can't remember. I'm teaching 2 trauma classes this semester, so I can't remember if I tell you guys the same stories, but I worked very recently with some ED staff, and one of the nurses told me that she has like a physical, visceral reaction to sirens now, because she worked for so long in an emergency department that flashing lights and sirens, never meant anything good. So she has this really kind of physical response to that. It could be something like a particular outfit someone's wearing. I can't remember if I've told you guys the story of a young girl that I worked with who was in a secure unit for some time, who went to school after many, many years of trying to get her back into a mainstream school. First day back, assaulted a teacher. And it took us probably 2 or 3 years before she'd been through extensive counselling. And she was able to put a name to it and say, oh, it was a hair. It was her hairstyle. She wore a hair like my auntie wore a hair. How do you predict that stuff? Places could be bars, could be parties, could be a drug user's house, could be a hospital, a cemetery, the road that a car accident happened on, the town you used to live in. Be lots of different places. Things, so belongings that evoke memories, could be items that have belonged to people. Conflict is a big one. So loud noises, yelling, banging, cars backfiring, drilling, those kind of big loud noises. Be sounds, could be smells, major life changes, and time periods. So anniversaries, holidays, leading up to anniversaries and things. Okay, where are we? 8:30, not too bad. This little video clip goes for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, so I'll pop myself on quiet and give me a little thumbs up when you're finished. Everyone done? I saw Rachel's thumb. And her? Good. Okay. What do we think? Make sense? Yep. Are people familiar with this model, the window of tolerance? Kind of, sort of? Yep. Dan Siegel's amazing. For anybody who works with young people, Dan Siegel's fantastic. He's the fellow who does the flipping the lid concept, if you've heard of that as well, where he talks about the brain stem and the inner part of the brain, and that once kids have had a complete meltdown, I'm explaining this terribly, their lid is flipped, and so their ability to regulate their emotions, have a straight conversation with you is just shot. So you have to co-regulate and bring them down and bring the lid back down before you can start engaging that part of the brain. Yeah, it's a great model, the window of tolerance. So if I give you this is a bit of a framework, right, which helps to understand what happens to our body, our mood, our thoughts, our behavior when we're feeling either okay or not okay because of exposure to trauma. So trauma and adversity will directly affect our nervous system. So Dan Siegel and Pat Ogden were the researchers that kind of captured this as a framework. So what they say is this middle part here, this optimal arousal zone, is when we're kind of able to manage the ups and downs of emotions on a fairly good basis, right? So we're pretty optimally regulated. Our nervous system has natural ebbs and flows. It's activated, but it settles. So things like, smashing a cup on the floor are irritating, but not something that's going to send us into full-blown meltdown, right? So you can kind of navigate in there. You can go a little bit over the line or a little bit under the line, but you can kind of regulate and right the ship and stay in that middle zone. I think they capture it as something like sailing in the river of well-being or something. So we're able to respond with things that come our way without kind of getting thrown too far off course. So we might have things like hurt and anxiety or a bit of pain or a bit of anger that bring us close to the edges of that window of tolerance, but generally we can utilize strategies to keep us within the window. So when we're outside our window of tolerance, this is where our nervous system is responding by going into survival mode. So we can either feel really overwhelmed and go up into hyper arousal, or we can shut down and go into hypo arousal. So hyper arousal is where we're kind of overwhelmed, we're panicked, we're going too fast, we're angry, we've got racing thoughts, we're anxiety. That's really up there in the agitated space. Hypoarousal is right down in that flat, not much feelings, low on energy, no motivation, disconnected, can't focus, we're really flat. So the ship is kind of off to the left. And our window of tolerance can be narrow or it can be wide. It can change for people at different times in our lives. So when we have lots of exposure to trauma, so if we think of little kiddies that have lots of adverse experiences, if we're looking at that child maltreatment study, their window of tolerance is much smaller, right? Because there is lots of other stuff going on. So it's far more likely that at any point in the day, they're going to go up into hyperarousal or they're going to go down into hypoarousal. For somebody who has not experienced lots of trauma or someone who's not experiencing trauma presently, the window of tolerance is generally pretty big. Okay. What impacts this window of tolerance are things like past traumas or ongoing stress. So another way of capturing this is the bucket analogy, right? So if you've got a bill you can't pay, your car's broken down, your boss is giving you the shits, the bucket's is getting full, the layers are getting full. So what happens is the bucket is either going to blow a gasket down the bottom, it's going to develop a hole and everything's going to go down through the bottom of it, or it's going to overflow and go up. It's a different analogy, but the same kind of concept. So too much stuff in the bucket, too much past trauma, too much ongoing stress, makes your window of tolerance narrower and more susceptible to experiencing either hyper or hypoarousal more frequently. If you think of things like personal resilience, so last week we spoke a little bit about vicarious resilience and people's coping skills. People that have those really strong coping mechanisms, those people that are sometimes very future focused people sit in a nice window of tolerance because whatever's kind of happening at the moment, they're very good at saying, you know what, it's a window of time, we'll get through it. Next week it'll be better. They tend to have a little bit of a better kind of way of coping with stuff that is thrown at them in the minute, because they tend to have a more future focus, a different lens to be able to say this is a moment in time. Very present focused people that are very much anchored in what's happening right now, tend to have smaller windows of tolerance because that bogs them down. People that have fewer coping strategies will also have a narrower window as well, because it's kind of like, if you throw something in the bucket, but you kind of get through it and take it back out of the bucket, it doesn't stay there. But people that don't have those coping mechanisms to take little bits and pieces out of the bucket will find that it starts filling up quicker and quicker, and they'll dip up or dip down. Things like external factors, supportive relationships, so a nice connection to other people, a healthy lifestyle, practicing good self-care, that's a nice little segue from earlier. Stressful or unpredictable environments will also reduce it. So when we're, sitting in an organization where there's massive change happening, there's redundancies, there's things like that even that stuff will narrow our individual window of tolerance, because it's all that noise and it's all that stuff that's, filling up the bucket while we're not looking. So understanding this window of tolerance model is very helpful. It helps to develop strategies with people to stay in that optimal zone, right? So it could include something like a therapeutic technique. We spoke a little bit about mindfulness. It can be grounding exercises. It can be cognitive behavioral strategies that help people manage the emotion and the arousal levels. It can be self-care things, so exercise, healthy eating, adequate sleep, all of that stuff that, I guess I hate saying things like getting enough sleep, because I feel like that's a really patronizing way of capturing self-care. But I know in myself, I will absolutely deal better with the day when I've had a decent sleep. When I get up and my battery's on half charge already, I know that my frustration tolerance isn't going to be the same as it would normally. I think if we're speaking organizationally, I think capturing good leadership and good colleagues falls in this kind of space as well. Having adequate supervision, being able to seek guidance with a problem, all kind of sits in this space as well. Okay, two quick case studies. Let's look at Rhonda. Rhonda is a 48-year-old woman. She works as a project manager. She's got 2 kids and her husband's often away for work for weeks at a time. She's pretty used to balancing work and home life because she's been doing it for a long time, and the kids are pretty good at getting themselves up and ready on school days. But it does mean she doesn't get much sleep on those days. She says she's pretty used to it. She's used to the disrupted sleep, but it is something that factors into it. Rhonda's been acting in her manager's role while her manager's on leave for 3 months. She was pretty keen to do it as it's good experience and she wants to eventually look at a promotion, but she's been feeling the pinch a bit over the last 3 weeks. So the first week she was acting up, she declined an invite to a brunch with friends as she wanted to be as prepared as she could for a meeting on the Monday. The night before, she didn't sleep well because she was going over and over the points she wanted to make. She had a stomach ache the following day, but she put it down to nerves about presenting at the meeting. A few days later, she had awful anxiety thinking about the meeting and had the overwhelming feeling she'd stuffed it up and she hadn't lived up to her boss's expectations. Her kids were slow getting to school and she yelled at them to get their shoes on so she could get them out of the house on time. Then she felt guilty all day and couldn't stop thinking about what a bad parent she was. and how she could possibly manage full-time work and raising kids at the same time. The last week, she's had a persistent headache that isn't responding very well to Nurofen, so she took a day off to sleep. The following day, her emails were so overwhelming, she found herself getting teary, thinking of all the work she needed to do to get through them all. She didn't sleep the following night, staying up late to catch up on the work she missed on her day off. This seems to have set off a bit of a chain of events, and now she's having difficulty falling back into her sleeping routine. This makes it hard to concentrate during the day, and by the time she finishes work, she's so tired she doesn't make it to the gym or to her regular coffee with her sister. What do we think's going on with Rhonda's window of tolerance? Yeah, you know what? You read my mind. I'm just going to find it and I will paste it in. Give me a second. What do you think's happening? Do we think she's functioning in her window of tolerance?
I think she's in the hyperarousal stage.
Yep.
Yeah, because she's been experiencing ongoing stress because of her work.
Yep.
And she had a lot of anxiety as well.
Yep. Yeah, she's definitely exhibiting some hyperarousal. What do we reckon, like if we're looking back at that analogy of the bucket, do we think her bucket was empty when she started acting up? Or did it have a heap of stuff in it already?
I think it's already full because she has responsibilities for her kids as well.
Yep. Yeah.
I think she's a single mom, right?
She's got a partner, but he's away for work at weeks at a time. So she solo parents a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I reckon the bucket's kind of running on a third full, just generally. But she's probably so immune to it now that she hasn't realized. So we picked up a few hyperarousal symptoms. What about hypoarousal? Can we see any hypoarousal symptoms?
Exhaustion and not necessarily avoidance, but not engaging in socialization.
Yep. Yep, she does. She's disengaging, isn't she? She's teary at work. That was the bit that got me too. She's sad. So this week on the Moodle, I know some of you have done it. There was an activity to look below the behavior. So the feelings and emotions we might see that's underlying this stuff. What do we think some of those feelings and emotions are for Rhonda?
Stress.
Yeah.
I guess sadness, probably in terms of probably a bit of loneliness with a partner being away.
Yeah, good one. Yep.
As well as probably loneliness with not having a manager as well.
Yeah. She sounds like a pretty high achiever too. She's got pretty high expectations for herself.
Yes, I think she probably feels maybe guilt and shame as well if she's got these high expectations and feels as though she's not achieving them.
Yeah. There's some value statements in that for me. She values being a good mum. She values being present for her kids, but she also values being part of a team, and there's a conflict there for her. Good. Let's look at Alex.
I think she wants to be perfect, like perfectionist.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think she's driven. She's clearly driven. She's ambitious. She's trying to balance ambitions as a, probably a mum that's returning to the workforce after mat leave at 48. Kids are probably in high school now and finally finding a way back and has some room and capacity for career. But yeah, balancing the juggle and probably feeling like she's dropping balls all over the place. Okay, Alex. Alex is quick because I'm mindful of the time. This one's short. So Alex is 24. He's a graduate student pursuing a degree in engineering and has always been a high achiever. He was raised in a family that valued academic success and has felt immense pressure to excel. Recent experiences have begun to affect his mental health and performance. He's reporting persistent headaches and fatigue that are interfering with his ability to concentrate on his study. He struggles with insomnia, often lying awake at night ruminating about his perceived failures. And despite receiving positive feedback from his professors, he's constantly doubting his abilities and practices repeatedly to make sure what he's doing is right. Lately, he's been procrastinating his coursework, and as a result, he's got lots of anxiety about being late to hand things in. He started spending more and more time in his room going over things, but can't quite get to the point where he starts writing or starts an assignment. What types of emotions or worries are driving Alex's behaviour, do we think?
I think self-worth. He doesn't think that he can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, lacking a bit of confidence.
Low self-esteem maybe.
Yep. Good. Anyone else?
There's not much.
I think.
Oh, sorry, you go, Sarah.
No, you go first.
I was just gonna say, there doesn't seem to be much. Well, there isn't really any mention in terms of relationships. So, in terms of support that he's receiving or able to seek from others, there appears to be an absence of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sarah, what were you going to say, hon?
I think his parents' expectation has impact on him.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think so too. Do we think there's an underlying fear? What do we think his underlying fear might be if we had to capture it?
Fear of failure.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. And so now we're seeing physical symptoms, right? Fatigue, headaches, not being able to sleep, anxiety, getting stuck. He's almost, you're almost seeing freeze in action there, not being able to push through and put pen to paper and start. So compounded by fear of failing, which is exacerbating those symptoms and impacting on his daily functioning.
It
Well
seems
captured.
like, sorry, with you mentioning there, Carla, that he's kind of in that freeze state, it almost seems as well that his default state is almost that of a fawn, where it's just the desire to please and seek approval.
Yeah, 100%. Very common with low self-worth and that real desire to achieve. Yep. Well spotted. Well done. Final thoughts? Anyone got any little pearls of wisdom before we finish tonight? No? Anyone read anything good? Listened to anything good?
I'm interested to listen to that the podcast on the mushrooms, because I've really been
mushroom one.
I've really been I guess lacking in terms of things to listen to lately.
I will get you the name of it. Hang on.
Thank you.
It's called The Mushroom Cook.
Mushroom Cook.
It's on Spotify. True Crime Australia.
I've been counting down the days until my Spotify the hours reset for listening to audiobooks.
Yeah.
And just in terms of the assessment task, there's a mention in terms of
let me bring it up.
What is it? Sorry. Maybe I read something. Oh, like the intervention plan should incorporate reference to current literature and relevant theory. Theory threw me off. Maybe that's just like me reading the sentence and probably just need to dig deeper a bit more. But just saying that, I wasn't sure if there was like particular theories we should be looking at.
I would look at trauma intervention strategies in terms of theory. They use theory in like research or theory. It doesn't mean theories like cognitive behavioral theory, for example, or learning theory. Like that's not what it's meaning to. It just means link it back to evidence. So if you're telling me that, I don't know, practicing mindfulness is an approach that you might recommend, why would you do that?
and then link it to literature. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yep. We're in week 4. That's due week 6. What I might do, since this group is a bit of a case study group, I might bring something similar next week and we can unpack a bit of that as a group, if that would be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
No problems. Anyone else got any final thoughts?
Been listening to the podcast from last term, Creating Presence. That was in one of the resources. That's good.
Yeah. Good. We had a bachelor podcast going for a little while, but it fell off. We need to pick it back up. It was good. I'm always down for good podcast recommendations.
There's a podcast I listen to called The Prosecutors. It's an American podcast, but it's the title really gives it away. It's two prosecutors, and they break down different well-known cases or crimes. They've spoken about like the staircase, Scott Peterson, like different like crimes and stuff, but looking at it from standpoint of prosecutors as well, like looking at arguments brought forward by defense, and just like bring in like the actual legal and court stuff into it as well, which is I find to be quite interesting.
Cool. I'll look at that one.
But I also my main podcast is really just The Office Ladies, which is just the ladies from The Office talk about the episodes. And they're in the final season now, so I don't know what I'm going to do when it's.
Oh, there's an Office Australia coming, I saw.
Oh, really? I don't know how I'll cope with that.
I can't remember where I saw it. Might have been on a news article or something, but I saw it today. Yeah,
though they're looking at like doing like potential reboots and stuff, but generally as well, like as opposed to listening to like podcasts, I might have I'll have a show on my phone at a really low volume, but it's always stuff I've seen before, so it's just just mindless listening. That's kind of like my white noise.
Yep. I can't do that. I have to have quiet. If I'm concentrating on something, I don't mind having music on if I don't need to really attend to something, but otherwise I need quiet. I think I'm becoming a little bit more sensory sensitive as I age.
I hope that kicks in for me soon, because I need like constant noise. Like I need to have something because otherwise my mind will wander.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'll think about multiple things. So if I'm doing uni, have something on in the background, like very low, like 1 bar volume on my phone. I can barely hear it, but it's just there. So I'm not picking up on any other distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will let you all go with the 2-minute early mark by the sounds of it. You can go and listen to 7 things at once, Rachel, and
yes.
Sarah can go and actually I had to laugh. I'm going to turn it off record because nobody needs to hear this. But